Welcome everybody to the first annual month of music, 30 days, 30 breakdowns, and 30 chances for you to learn more about your favorite music. Today is a little bit of a bittersweet one. Like everyone else in the music world, both fans and musicians alike, I was extremely saddened to hear of D'Angelo's passing a couple of weeks ago. And it brought to mind some things that were hugely influential to me, especially in college. The album Black Messiah came out when I was in college, and I remember it was such a big deal because obviously it had been such a long time since D'Angelo's previous record before that. And when it came out, we were all in the jazz program. We all just went nuts over it, and everybody was like, "You gotta check this out." And at the time, I was not that familiar with D'Angelo. When I heard things like this, my mind was completely blown. Check this out. I remember the first time hearing that. Needless to say, the harmony was the first thing I picked up on. And then the second thing I picked up on at pretty much the exact same time was the absolute insanity of this groove. To the surprise of precisely nobody, the pocket is utterly insane. But I want to talk today a little bit about just how good this harmony is, how unbelievably this song is written, and what we can learn from it about sus chords. Get a load of this. The intro alone to Another Life already tells us that we're gonna hear some absolutely insane harmony, because the first thing we hear is this big 3-chord build-in, right? We have the 2 lead-up chords, and then we finally come in with our beat on a B7 sus chord. Okay, but the chords leading up to it, that right there seems like, oh, you know, a couple of cool chords. I want you to understand how insanely cool this is. So, if we follow our root motion, this is a pretty common thing that we see where we can take beautiful chords like this and move them in parallel, which means that we're keeping the exact same chord and we're moving the chord around. We start with an A flat sus, we go up a whole step to a B flat sus, and then up a half step to a B sus. Okay, now that might just seem like, okay, that's just a movement, up a whole step and then up a half step. But what you may not realize is that that movement is the start of the diminished scale. So the diminished scale, or in other words, we're moving our trajectory from this A flat sus chord to this B sus chord, which is a minor third. Minor thirds are one of the coolest ways to move chords around in music because what we wind up with, each chord is so different from one another that it gives so much color to our ears and stuff for us to go, whoa, what are we listening to? Just take a listen. The difference between this A flat sus chord and that B sus chord, okay? Now, those of you with keen eyes will see that I'm actually playing a little more. It's a little more than just the sus chord. We'll explain that in just a second. But watch what happens if I kept going in this minor third motion. Check that out. And that would put us back A flat. So we have A flat sus, B sus, D sus, F sus, and that brings us back to A flat. All the exact same chord. I'm just moving that chord in parallel, okay? Now, what D'Angelo does here in the beginning is he uses B flat as a passing tone, right? So that tells us we're gonna follow this pattern of whole step, half step. Now, the diminished scale, we can do this whole thing with the diminished scale and move all the way up the diminished scale. Watch this. We're simply gonna alternate whole step, half step, whole step, half step, and the result will be the diminished scale. So we have A flat, B flat, B, there's our half step. Now, whole, half, whole, half, whole, half. Listen to that again. Landing on our diminished chord tones. And we get that crazy sound because each one of these chords is so different. I mean, the shared notes between A flat sus and B sus are so few. And when we change chords in that way, where we're using a completely different sound, it really gives our ears something to go, whoa, that's different. Now, when we land on that B, okay, it becomes the 5 chord of E major, right? So it's like 5, 1. So for a moment we were like, okay, have we settled in E as the key here? No, because we go right back to that A flat sus we started it, and then we do the same thing again. But then watch this. There's that same device that we were just talking about. Now we've dropped a whole step. We're starting on G flat sus, up a whole step, A flat, up a half step, A7 sus, and then B sus. There's that same scale. We're starting in a different place though. All before we release into the first part of the song on B flat minor. It's so sick. Okay, let's listen to this again because we gotta go back. There's our B sus, down to our E, but right back to our A flat, B flat, B sus. Oh, we've resolved. Oh wait, no we haven't. Oh, now we really haven't. And I love how that right there is the emergence of the first chord that's not a sus chord. Oh, okay, well, let's see. No, we have the E major. That's the only one that's not a sus chord in the intro. But this is a B flat minor chord. You know what's beautiful about this? I still don't know what key we're in. And I don't think it matters. But like, I'm trying to figure out what's the home base of this. Because we do resolve in the first section to this G flat major 7, but is that right? I don't think that's the home base. I think what we're going to learn as we go further into this is that there are suggestions of a home key in certain places, but I don't think it's consistent at all. Jeez. G flat major. Oh, that in between A flat sus is so sick. B flat minor, and then B major has the 4 resolving plagal cadence to the G flat. And then we play this section, I think, 4 times. B, which is the 4 of G flat major 7. Yeah. And this last time we're going to go to like a 4th ending, if you will. And we're going to go to somewhere completely new. There's our B major. Yeah. Here's the same chord we got in the intro, but instead of going to E, we're going to go down a whole step chromatically to A, and now that becomes the 5 of the new section. The D major. But where are we now? That's a 5 going to F. Look at the relationship between those 2 keys. Oh man, this is so rich with beautiful harmonic content. It's so mind-blowing. Okay, so we built up, we went A flat sus, B flat sus, which that's the exact same thing as the intro, leading us to this B7 sus, although in the intro we went and resolved that to an E major 7. We're not gonna do that here. We're gonna let that sit, and then we're gonna go chromatically down to A7 sus, and then we get a break, and we wait for our new resolution into D major 7. And you might think for a second, oh, we have found our home key. We're now in D major. Excellent, except for the fact that within 2 measures, we get this beautiful C7 sus chord, and that becomes the 5 of where it resolves to, which is F major 7 in this case. And then we simply turn it around by throwing the 5 in front of the D again. This is just like, okay, so we have this is 4 bars. You guys, you gotta understand something. This is a 4-bar section. I think we repeat it a number of times, and it comes up throughout the song multiple times after this. But this is what's so beautiful about it, is we have this D major, and we're thinking, oh, that's our home base, and then, nope, we go to... and that resolves. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then we know that we can set up that D again if we just put a 5 in front of it, right? So this is A7 sus. It serves as the 5 chord going to D. And then... let me tell you what's so amazing about this entire song and the way that it uses sus chords. This song, I would say, uses maybe a slightly more developed version of a sus chord than what we have written here, which is simply just A flat 7 sus 4. Is that correct? Absolutely, it's correct. If we have A flat 7 and we say it's going to have a suspended fourth, that means we're going to, instead of playing a third, we're going to suspend that third up to our fourth. So it's very basic form. This is an A flat 7 sus chord. How do we get from there to this beautiful voicing here? Okay, all we're doing is we're extending that chord out, and we're making some assumptions about the upper extensions of that chord. When we read something like A flat 7 sus, it doesn't actually tell us anything about what happens outside of that first octave. It only tells us that we're going to take an A flat 7 chord and we're going to suspend the fourth. That's it, okay? But from there, we can develop that chord into something much more beautiful and complete. And we can do that by starting to add things in the upper extension. Upper extension simply refers to things that happen outside of that first octave of a chord, where we find our 4 main chord tones, right? In a normal A flat 7 chord, it would be A flat, C, its third, E flat, its fifth, and G flat, its dominant 7th. And of course, like we said, we've made this sus 4. And now we can start building. There's the 9th. That's the naturally occurring 9th in A flat. Let's try the 11, which is just the 4 again, so we know that's okay. By the way, that 9 is really just the 2. Okay, so 9 is the upper extension version of the 2. The 11, well, that one we're already playing, so we know that's good. That one, to me, makes all the difference. This is the 13, the natural 13. Now, I want you to notice something about what this does. There's a few different ways we can look at this that make it a little bit easier to replicate in different keys. If we have an A flat, its 5th, maybe its 7th, we can achieve that voicing by simply playing a chord on top. Now, you can look at this chord in a couple different ways. If we look at it as a triad, it's B flat minor. Well, what's the relationship between B flat minor and A flat? It is the minor triad from a whole step up from the root. So we can recreate that anywhere. There's a C7 shell, and let's play the minor triad of a whole step up. A whole step up from C is D, and there we go. We get that beautiful sound of the sus 13 chord, I would call this. Okay, we can do that anywhere else. Let's try, how about E? Well, let's play our shell, 1, 5, flat 7. And I'm gonna play the minor triad of a whole step up. A whole step up from E is F. So F sharp minor. There we go. There's that beautiful sound again. So what's so sick about this song is that D'Angelo wrote this with these like parallel voicings where we can keep the exact same structure and move it around in all these ways that he's defined. Right? We get that, and then we get leading into the A section. How sick is that? And then we simply continue that, moving into that D major section. We get faking us out like we're going to do the intro again, but then I have not changed this voicing at all. I made a little change from what I showed you. You can either play at 1-5 flat 7 or like 1-4. Either one of those works. But what are we doing? We're using a singular chord, and we're using it in a parallel sense where we can just move it all over the place and keep the same chord. Yeah, I mean, if you practice this, you could literally just practice playing these shapes. And, By the way, here's a really great way to practice. Play the chord, jump up an octave, jump back down an octave, now move. You can move in chromatic. Oops. You can move in whole steps, so like... Or you can move in minor thirds, you can move in fourths, you can move in any interval you want. Why do we jump the octave like that? Well, because it forces our hands to give up that position and have to find it again, right? If I just sit here and I say go up a half step, well, I can just look at all my fingers, move each one up a half step. It's kind of cheating, right? But if I have to pick my hands up, move them to a different part of the piano, play it again, and then again, I gotta really know where my hands are going. Right? So it really helps to practice chord voicings that way. If you find any chord voicing at all that you like to play, practice it like that and you'll lock it in a lot faster. Beautiful. Resolve to F, but... There we go, back to that B flat minor. Up a half step to B major, now resolve that, 4-1. But, whoops, played that wrong, but we're doing the same thing, again, where we're just not fully resolved. Like, every time we resolve, it's only for a second because then we're going somewhere else. On to a new thing. Except it's not new, it's the intro. You know, and this album, as well as everything else that D'Angelo wrote, is so packed full of just brilliant harmonic writing. It's so rich, it's so full of color and just beautiful harmonic content. We could sit here for hours and just break down D'Angelo chords because they're just, it's incredible. And that's not even talking about the absolute insanity that is the groove. Yeah, the top comment, this song hits differently today. It's just, yeah, it's too bad. But thankfully, we have this music and that will never go away. And that's pretty cool. So anyways, wanted to cover that today, talk a little bit about it. I know I kind of geeked out a little bit. Hopefully you followed some of that. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for tuning in to the first annual month of music. We'll see you tomorrow.